I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're venturing into the home front with Alan Summers. This gripping novel takes us into the life of fighter pilot Mark Brabham, who, after being severely injured in the Battle of Britain, finds solace and a complex path to healing in his uncle's Essex village. Amid the tranquility of rural life, Mark's story unfolds, revealing the personal battles faced away from the front lines and the unexpected relationships that guide him towards recuperation. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. We ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his wonderful work. The links are below this interview. Alan, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Logan.
Tell us a little bit about the inspiration. What inspired you to explore the theme of recovery and resilience in the context of World War II?
Well, I grew up amid World War II veterans, and many of them had been casualties at some point during their careers. And as I got older, they told me their stories. So I wanted to preserve the little things they told me. It starts for me as a church choir boy, Logan. As a 9-year-old at the front of the church, I was confronted by maybe 24 old women sitting by themselves in the congregation. They were the widows of the Great War, the First World War veterans. There were about 24 of them when I started in the choir, and of course, they gradually disappeared. Some of them had been married, some of them had never married. Yeah. One of them was my infant school teacher.
Oh, okay.
So I've got a little bit from her. I've got a little bit from others. Did I mention my dad was a museum curator?
Wow.
I may not, right, but in his local government museum, he always had uniformed porters on duty in the museum. And these men were all World War II veterans, and they watched me grow up, and they told me their stories as well. And I also pinched some of their names.
Sounds great. Well, I'm sure they love being immortalized on the pages of your book anyway.
Well, yes, as I reread the book, I see their faces.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So basically, you borrowed a little bit of this, a little bit about that. So it's really a novel based on fact that you fictionalized a little bit here and there
Yes,
to tell a story.
every story is something simple. This one's boy meets girl, but
Right.
with a backdrop of the war, and particularly how it impacted on village life.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
the, you picture at the start of the war, the able-bodied men all went off to join the forces. Then there's a whole influx of new people coming to the village, the children evacuated from London, and then there were women coming in, land army girls, nurses, and then the casualties start to come back, for their recuperation periods. And all of these people in the village have multiple roles, multiple identities, is what I call it. So we picture the old Colonel Mallington in charge of the Home Guard. Well, there's a veteran of at least 2 wars before the World War II, but he's not just the Home Guard. He's the parish councillor, he's church warden. He's got several identities, right down to the young lady that Mark meets in the village. She's in the land army, but she's also Brown Owl to the little girls. She's also a Girl Guide captain. She does something with the Cubs and Scouts, and she's got a little bit of World War II veteran about her, because before Mark meets her, there was a big operation in 1940 as the British troops were forced back to the Channel coast. We sent hundreds of little boats to pick them up off the beaches at Dunkirk, and she was navigating one of them.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah. That's such a strong part of the story for sure. Tell me, have you envisioned this as a movie or a TV series or something? It's very visual, it's very, very real, and the story of Mark and his struggles seem like they would ring true with audiences.
Yeah, look, Logan, I see these things visually, and then I
Mm.
write down what I saw.
Right.
So the very first image I had of this story was set in 1970. It's not in the book, it's in the
Mhm.
sequel. But the what I saw was Mark Brabham, now middle-aged, uh, getting over it, uh, going back to the church in that village to uh, enjoy the 25th anniversary reunion of the people that were there in 1945 to 1970, 25 years.
Mm.
And old Colonel Mallinson, who by then is about 90, uh, arrives, looked after by the girls, the 30 somethings then, who
Mm.
back in the day were the little brownies. So
Right.
I saw that, and I saw Mark's wife walk on into the church, uh, but I didn't see who she was.
Mm.
So I had to go back to the beginning and follow Mark visually, writing it
Mhm.
down as I saw it, to see who he met, which of the women he met ultimately became his wife.
Mm.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Authors of fiction are not always in control of their characters.
Exactly. They take on a life of their own, that's for sure. Absolutely.
Exactly. You understand that very well.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, characters always do. It's the role of the actor too to bring a different element to it as well. Let me ask you this. You mentioned the sequel. Is the sequel already complete? Is it available for sale? What stage in production is it?
If I take 2 weeks off, the completed manuscript would be in your hand.
Right.
That,
So
that, that's
you're that close.
that's how close it is.
Great.
One of my joys in writing is having written it is to leave it alone.
Yeah.
Um, does the name Oliver Wendell Holmes ring a bell with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Now, he did the same thing. His practice was, to listen to the arguments in the United States Supreme Court, right?
Hmm.
And he would go home and write out his judgment. And the
Hmm.
very first time he did that on the Supreme Court bench, he took it in the next day to the other judges, and none of them liked it.
Hmm.
So, because they read it out to each other, none of them
Right.
liked it. So he put it back in his desk. He called it maturing in the wood. Right, put it in his desk for 3 months, took it out, unedited, and then read it to them again, and they all liked it. So, my tip from Oliver Wendell Holmes: write it, put it away, let it mature a bit, and then come back to it, because then I can be the editor.
Yep, exactly. Step away from it. You almost have forgotten what you've written. That's the thing.
That's
Like, I put this
that's
in
part
there,
of,
right?
oh,
Yeah.
that's part of the fun. I have a large tub of notes,
Mhm.
things which uh, I've got as I reread it for you. I can then tick them off when I see they're in there.
Mm,
And if there's anything left which isn't in there, I slide that in, and then it's up and ready.
amazing. Amazing. Sounds like a great process. And it's kind of fun when you open up the manuscript again, you start reading, you're like, wow, this is pretty good. Did I write this? Like I said, you kind of forget what you've written, you kind of forget what you've created.
Oh, I love the flattery, Logan, but yes, I have surprised myself on occasions with rereading something.
That's
Whew.
great. Is this the first time you've written a novel?
Uh, I've written several
Mhm.
because uh, writing is what I like doing. I like the writing process. I like the editing process. To be honest with you, the publishing side of it
Mhm.
is more of a drag. It's more
Yeah.
bureaucratic, and so the stuff I've written for the most part, some books are published, but I've got at least two novels in the wood.
Mhm.
And one of the published novels I wrote I wrote it backwards, if I can put it like that. I wrote the screenplay first.
Hmm.
Wrote it as a screenplay because I was seeing it visually.
Yeah.
Many years ago, I wrote a screenplay, shall we say, outline for a British gangster movie. Now, that was taken up. Other people worked on it. It became a very popular film, and I made nothing of it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because you can't copyright a screenplay. You can't copyright an idea like that.
Right.
You can copyright a novel. So when I realised what had happened to me with that one, I thought, right, take the screenplay, engineer it backwards into a novel that secures my copyright. A reasonably good director has got that in his back pocket.
Great.
You know, but if he goes on to give it to somebody else to do the screenplay treatment and things, at least I'll get a bit of credit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's exciting when you put your work out into the world. You never know what's going to happen to it, whose hands it's going to wind up in, what life it takes on of its own. Like the characters in your book yourself, you said after a while you don't have control. They're going their own way. Same thing's true with your manuscript. Once you're done and it's out there, could wind up in anyone's hands, could be turned into a Netflix series 3 months from now.
And that kind of development is no bad thing. Authors are usually advised, with respect to converting books into screenplays, take money and run.
Exactly. Always good advice. I think in every field, take the money and run is a good good advice.
I think it's there. I mean, I've seen if we pause and think of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
There were various. J.K. Rowling kept quite strict control of her storylines, and various directors brought in ideas of their own, which they then had to get past her. You need to be an actor to have noticed this, but there's a scene in one of the Harry Potter movies. He's on a three-decker bus, and there are miniature talking heads shouting at the driver. Now, they were the idea of the director, Chris Columbus. She ran it past J.K. Rowling, and she said, "I wish I'd thought of that." Right.
That's great.
When you write a novel, there's only one mind controlling it.
Exactly.
15 characters controlling it, but you know,
right.
You know
but one creator.
As you said, once it's out there, there are other great minds come to play on it who can only make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this book is terrific. It's called The Home Front. It's written by Alan Summers. It's a gripping novel that takes you into the life of a war hero, a fighter pilot, who, after being severely injured, finds peace and comfort and healing back in his uncle's Essex village. It's a great book. It's a great read. It'll bring World War II back to life for you. It's based on real people. If that's why it feels real to you, that's part of it. And Mark Summers has done a wonderful job bringing that era, these people, those events, and the challenges they faced to life. Alan, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Logan, thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.